Right, thanks, and good afternoon, everybody. I really wanted to make this session as interactive as I possibly can because the topics I'm going to deal with, I'm sure some of you know about, but you haven't got enough detail exactly what's happening. But I just want to give you a flavor of what's going on, and then I'd really like your input. How would you see it as an industry? What do you need to do? I'll share some of the things that we're looking at that we want to do as well. But I definitely think the landscape's really changing, and it's changing quite dramatically. I just want to go very briefly through some of the initiatives. A lot of what's on the slide you've already been looking at, so I don't want to repeat all of that again. But if you look at BEPS, I sometimes take a cynical view of BEPS. Because if the developing world thinks that BEPS has been put in place to correct their profit shifting, it's not. BEPS has been put in place to correct the taxes going back into Europe because their tax has dropped quite dramatically. But obviously I think the OECD is very clear in what they're doing is whatever they want to implement, they want to bring the rest of the developing world into this as well. But BEPS is not something that's out there to fix the tax stake in the developing world. Anybody who thinks that is missing the point completely. BEPS is really out there to fix up a lot of the planning that multinationals have done to move their profits into low tax jurisdictions. All legal, it's all legal, well, in most cases I'd say. I think some guys are pushing it a little. But BEPS is really focusing on the OECD countries, but it wants to bring the other guys along. That's in any event my view. Some of you might differ with me. But I'm not going to talk more than that about BEPS because I think that's all you really need to know. Something that when BEPS started off that I was looking at very carefully is this convention on mutual administrative assistance. Because to fix up the problems with profit shifting around using double tax treaties is going to take forever. It's definitely not going to happen in my lifetime. But this exchange of information and mutual administrative assistance, that is going to be the tool that's going to be used to be able to target multinationals across multiple countries. And the pillars that they're working on now is really just to enhance tax enforcement. They're looking at automatic exchange of information. If you're operating anywhere in the world and you think that your information in one country is not being shared with tax authorities in another country, I think you're living in a very dangerous world because it's happening. I mean, I've got an example in East Africa. I went and sat with a tax authority. I'm not going to mention the names because I believe in building relationships, and I had a chat with them, and I said, one thing that worries me sometimes is that I'm sure that you guys are discussing when you meet on a regular basis, some of the multinationals. Is this true? They said, yes, of course they do. I said, but you know what? You're sharing information outside of protocols. No, I'm not averse to you sharing information, but just do it in the right legal framework. But in any event, this convention, and a lot of countries have signed, there's 7 African countries. Just be aware that the exchange of information is happening, and it's happening a lot, because they want to make more and more of this automatic. 10 years ago, if a country wanted information, they had to write a letter. It was a whole long story before you got the information. But they are sharing quite openly these days. I'm throwing things around again. The other point I want to bring up is this tax task force on development. And that's something, I'm involved in it as well, but I find it extremely important because what I want as a multinational in Africa, and anywhere in the world for that matter, but specifically in Africa, is certainty. And the only way I'm going to get certainty anywhere is to make sure that the countries that I'm working with, that the tax authorities have got the right quality people. Because